Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Planning and Highways Committee. Today being the 30th of August 2022. And I shall start by reminding you, in case you needed it, that this meeting is being visually and audio recorded for publication on the Thatcham Town Council YouTube channel. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you probably already know that. So moving on to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence. Deputy Clerk.
None received.
Okay, thank you. So, agenda item 2, declarations of interest. See everybody? No, thank you. Agenda item 3, to take as read and confirm as accurate the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of July. Both Chairman. Seconded. I think the Councillor Lister beat you just by a second. Those in favour? Thank you. That was unanimous. So that brings us to agenda item 4, matters arising. Are there any matters arising that are not on the agenda?
There are no matters arising from the previous meeting, no.
Thank you. And of course, you remember that we decided to cancel the meeting 3 weeks ago because of the lack of important agenda items and the lack of councillors. Okay, so agenda item 5, the Lawrence's Lane inquiry. Would you like with me to?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So as you will recall, the council has agreed to requested to be a Rule 6 party to the inquiry, which will now take place in December, and that was agreed. And after a considerable amount of correspondence involving the date, it's been settled on the 1st of September for a case management conference. And that is not discussing the merits of the issue, it is discussing the process and identifying areas of common ground and the structure for the most efficient conduct of the inquiry. So that'll be with the inspector and the barristers for the council and the appellant. And I probably won't have much to report to the meeting because it is at the next meeting, because it's a process. It's discussing process rather than substance.
But Chairman, you'll be attending?
I'll be attending, yes.
You will.
I'll report back, but I say most of what.
However unexciting, you will let us know.
I don't know, but I think the intention is that it won't be exciting because it's only discussing the process. And Deputy Town Clerk will also be attending as well. Okay. So moving on to agenda item 6, I senior projects consultant to West Berkshire Council. So I think we're inquiring about how we would receive a copy of the draft report, which is due for publication in its final form in late June. So, Madam Deputy Clerk, any updates since the agenda?
So only that we inquired as to when it would be available, and the response I got back at the end of July was that they're finalising the draft at the moment and discussing timescales with West Berkshire Council, but they reckoned it was going to be a few more weeks at that point.
Okay.
Nothing further.
Right, thank you. So we wait with not too bated breath because we will die of asphyxiation if we waited with bated breath. Thank you. So moving on to agenda item 7, shall I cover this one as well? Because so this was we received information about a community fund grant through Great Western Railway. It was actually final decisions were made with the government, and this had a very short deadline, so we agreed to put forward the wayfinding project, and that which is in fact falls under the Environment Working Party, but we were unsuccessful, and I think there was about 5 times the amount of applications that there was money available, which is par for the course. So we expect about a 20% success rate if we're good, and this time was not one of those.
I asked you, is a wayfinding project what we
So
hoping to do?
this came from, it was initially suggested through from West Berkshire Council following an initiative in Newbury. And we were proposing to mark a pedestrian route from the station to the town centre using the footpaths, the public footpaths and other, because it is, it's a lot safer than Station Road, but on the other hand, it's a lot more difficult to find. And so that was the intention.
Okay, thank you.
That, of course, could still proceed with either different grant or under our own funding. So we move on to agenda item 8, first item for decision. So this is a consultation on the Transport for South East Strategic Investment Plan. So this body is a consortium of the local authorities in the South East who are putting forward put forward a strategic investment plan for transport infrastructure projects in the South East. A lot of these are quite expansive, but as West Berkshire Council is right in the northwest corner of the area, anything that's expansive would go outside the area and therefore wouldn't fall within this project, this strategic plan. So the two which were proposed was an upgrade of the road from Basingstoke to Newbury for safety reasons, and improvements of bus services between Newbury and Thatcham. So I have drafted a response which you should have as agenda. Do you have it? Yes. That's agenda item 8. So as is all too common nowadays, the responses are requested and perhaps in this case required to be in the form of an online survey. So this goes through the questions on the survey that need to be answered, or all the questions on the survey, and you will see that, well, section 1 I've not included because that's factual information about who's replying. And I've shown what I'm suggesting that we respond. The area is divided into 4, and we fall within something called Wessex Thames. So we only make responses to that questions relating to that area. And you will see that I've suggested what options we tick. And the main substance you will see at the middle and the bottom of the second page, if you're looking at paper. So the first one related to those two proposals, and we comment on the inadequacy of the bus services. So we support improvements. You'll see that there's a subsequent. This is elaborated in the subsequent agenda item, and the 8339 highlighting that if that is to be improved, and given that it's proposed to be done for safety reasons, I can't see how we could object. Then there would likely to be consequential impact, which might justify upgrading the priority for the level crossing. Can I just go to the second one? So the second one is relating to the global policy across the area, and the only thing which is relevant in terms of current council policies is to support the decarbonisation of public transport fares in the light of us declaring a climate emergency. So, Councillor Woodham.
Yes, tick all that apply. There's lots of sort of vagueness about these titles, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like adapting to a new normal.
So, of course, these are questions that relate to the 126-page document.
I'm not surprised.
So I did go through it, and those are explained slightly in that lengthy document. So these are the ones that I felt could be relevant in the light of that document.
I really do would look forward to the world-class urban transit system. I think that would suit this area extremely well. Resilient radial corridors. So is this more akin to a city?
Yeah, so the point is this covers the whole of the southeast of England, and if you look at the table, there's about four pages of the table with one line per project, and a lot of these relate to things that are not relevant to West Berkshire.
Although I do feel that levelling up left behind communities might be more appropriate for Thatcham. So I do really.
Yes, it's difficult to see how you can effectively we're improving the bus service. So because that would be particularly beneficial to people who don't have a new car.
Wonderful.
So, Councillor Crump.
But just to comment, I mean, the key to this, as far as I'm concerned, would be, as you said, a road bridge over the railway line at Thatcham, because otherwise, even decarbonisation, so-called, will create problems rather than solve. The road from Newbury to Basingstoke is fairly hazardous from time to time. There are fairly narrow stretches of it, so anything to increase the safety element of that road would be welcome. Decarbonisation is, I presume, this is the management scheme for more electric vehicles. Is it?
Well, it's reducing
non-petrol.
It's reducing the usage of them as well as the number of them. That's why I refer to the public transport as under that category. So effectively,
Reduce the number of cars, but increase the number of buses.
Well, it's reducing, yes, but that's one element. It would of course include railway, but that was the element that obviously there are these categories and there are the individual proposals, and there's no point in ticking something if we can't just. The purpose for ticking one of the options is to justify us making a point which is beneficial to Thatcham. So that's why I chose those particular options. And of course, I think that those options relate to council policies, so that we don't have to debate. Well, you know, it's difficult for us to tick boxes which go beyond what the council's already agreed. So
What are you seeking?
So I'm thinking that we approve this and then request the deputy clerk to actually go through the process of entering this into the online questionnaire. And you'll see, thankfully, it does not require an answer to every question, which is a good option. A good thing, which not all online surveys have.
And we're just answering the tick.
So it's basically what is ticked and what is text, and you'll see that in fact section 4, which I think section 4, 5, and 6. I'm not proposing that we comment or add any text because they're not really. They are things beyond the scope of just Thatcham. It's difficult. We wouldn't be in a position to comment on them, I don't think, or at least it will be a new policy, which would be difficult to do without reading the document in full. And I'm sure you'd rather not do that this evening.
How many pages is it?
I think it was 120. The main document was 126, and then there was supplementary documents as well.
I wonder how many people answered those questions.
I think the point is that the big bodies who stand to benefit will put some effort into it, and of course, because it's West Berkshire Council, they probably already know what they want to tick because they probably wrote the bits relevant to this area anyway. Anyway, so can I propose? I'm going to propose from the chair that we agree this, and I think they got in first to second that, and I think everyone can raise their hands to support that. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Well, I'm not sure how much influence we will have, but it's important to be shown to be engaged on these things. And then I can find the agenda again. So that brings us on to the consultation on the draft Hackney carriage and private hire licensing and policy. To go very briefly. So this is every time, I think it has to be done every year, but every time there is a proposal to change the fares, there is for taxis, there is a complicated multi-stage process of consultation which West Berkshire Council is required to go through. And most of the respondents generally are the taxi drivers themselves, because of course they're only setting a maximum fare. So the people who want the maximum fare will support the increase, and the people who undercut them will oppose. But I would suggest, having looked at this briefly and also remember the same thing from previous years, I would suggest that there's probably not something which we would wish to get involved in, and I therefore suggest that we note this without offering a response unless someone has a
Proposed noted.
Thank you.
Second.
Those in favour of noting this? Yeah, thank you very much. That's unanimous. Number 10. Consultation on West Berkshire Council moving traffic offences. I introduced them briefly. So this is the result of a change in the law which enables local authorities to apply for permission to enforce moving traffic offences as well as just parking. And West Berkshire Council is doing a consultation on whether it should do so. But if you actually look into the detail, they are proposing that initially this will only apply to certain locations where there are schools and a particular class of restriction at the moment, which doesn't, I think it's largely Calcott, and therefore doesn't, the implementation of this would not apply to Thatcham initially, at least initially. On that basis, when I looked through, I didn't see any particular reason why we would need to respond to this consultation unless we support the general principle. For example, it would enable West Berkshire Council to enforce some of the rules associated with mandatory cycle lanes. But that is not their current plan.
Do you know anything more about the Calcott school? Is it a special situation?
It's a restriction.
Invited.
It's a restriction. It's a restriction on the traffic around the school at arrival and leaving times. I can't remember.
Half an hour in the morning.
I can't remember the exact. Yeah, I can't remember the exact times and the exact nature of the scheme, but it was there. I think there's certainly one. There may be a second one, but they're in the east of the district.
That provision would apply to every school in the district.
No, it is.
No,
It's only where there is a specific traffic enforcement already, a type of traffic enforcement already in place,
Sorry, it's just such as the school being the only premises on the street, so that there's an added incentive if we like to reduce have parking provision in.
It's to do with the point is that it's the location of the school that makes it possible to do this, because I think it has to be for it to work, it has to be on a through road, which is not a main road. And all of the schools in our area are either not on through roads or they're on a main road. So that this particular type of scheme would not be applicable probably and it's certainly that haven't been implemented. That there are one or two specific cases where the regulations are already in force. But at the moment, only the police can actually do the enforcement process, and this would enable the council to do enforcement as well.
So this would be through traffic wardens or
CPEs, I think they're called civil parking. I don't know what the yes, but it would be yes, those people.
So this would be a school where, say, on the road you described, that if it were temporarily closed half an hour or whatever, morning and afternoon, traffic would go round another route.
I think
not past the school.
I can't remember something like that. But the point is that it's that particular. There is a particular type of regulation which only works in certain situations, which I don't apply in Thatcham. And they're proposing to initially, or when they get the permission, they're proposing only to apply it to those particular schemes as a trial.
They've trialled already. Well, the count what they've done.
No, they haven't. They've got the schemes in place, but at the moment only the police can enforce it, and they don't have the resources to do so. So this would allow the council to do enforcement as well. And they're proposing that they would only do this enforcement initially as a trial on that particular scheme, which only occurs in the east of the district.
The first line of the, or second line of the item 10 refers to complaints of speeding and congestion.
Yes.
Kind of oxymoron. I mean, vehicles can't be doing both, can they? That not striking us a bit odd, especially outside schools. So it's not simply about schools.
But yeah, so you'd need to read the whole of the document in order to see what they're proposing. But I think that that initial paragraph may be taken from a general description of what the law allows, and as I say that the details are not extracted here. But if you looked at the whole document, you would find that
I mean, I haven't read through item 10. Yes, it seems a good idea to have the local authority take responsibility for this, and the police are always complaining about not having enough resources, and that's still far more serious matters. So I'm sympathetic to that proposal. Also, it seems as if they're going in on a gradual basis. I'm trialed it at Charlock and maybe going to do a couple of other places to see how it how it works. We're just closing off the street for an hour each day, so as to enable parents to go in and out of selecting return children. Okay, that sounds fine in principle, but I can think of occasions, thinking about main road through Thatcham, part of Bailey, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There are only two, I think there's only one or two places where this has been implemented, and it can only be implemented where the street layout allows it, which is not any of the schools in Thatcham that I can think of. So the point is that because the consultation, although it's general in nature, it's actually consulting on effectively on a trial in the east of the district. I didn't see anything that we could meaningfully respond to which would influence the outcome. So I'd suggest that for the time being, where are we? 30th of December, we do actually,
30th of August, after the 20th of.
we do actually, we could actually technically respond if we wanted to before midnight on the 20th.
I think our next meeting is the 20th.
Yeah, but it's the deadline's midnight. So the point is, I'm suggesting that for the purposes of this meeting, we note it, and if anybody wishes to read the full consultation again and come back, we can in principle, and I could go back home after the meeting and add it if we need to. But for the purposes of this meeting, I suggest that we note this consultation. Thank you.
Okay, happy with that.
I think let's go vote. I saw people nodding. Is that agreeing?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. So we then move on to the agenda item 11, which is a minor update to the transport scheme. And when we responded to the consultation on the lighting of the cycleway, we made some broader comments about other aspects, including that the signs at this point were in fact not in accordance with the legal requirements.
Can you just run through that again? I can't.
So you remember a few meetings back, we received a request for comments on the lighting of the cycleway lane, but we used that opportunity to make some broader comments about the cycleway in the adjacent areas, including this location where there's a photograph where the original signage was not in accordance with the legal requirements. So this is basically saying, and they said they'd go away and look at it. This is to say that they've looked at it and they agree that we were right.
Well done.
They've just changed sort of.
Well, the point was that the signs basically said that
one side and then.
well, the signs originally said that pedestrians were not allowed to walk on the footpath. That was what the legal meaning of it was.
I have to say, after just cycling back from Newbury for this meeting, when I went through there, the other sign that's not there is the one that tells you to turn left where the crossing point is.
Yeah.
Because naturally, as a cyclist, you see the roads in front of you, which is also a cycle lane.
Yeah.
And then you come out at the end, if you do what I did, and you have to cross the A4 at a really dangerous point, actually. So there's a right hand, there's traffic turning right whilst you're trying to cross the road.
Yeah. So we made that comment, but the point was that because that's not a legal requirement, they ignored us.
Yeah, I know.
This one was where the law was on our side, so that they were forced to do something about it.
Did you know it really is so quite a convoluted.
So the history of this is talking to a previous officer responsible, that there have been a number of schemes, and each of those schemes had signs added. And because of the way they're funded, nobody has sorted out the changes needed to the previous schemes in order to integrate them with the new schemes. So this is sort of the A4 between Newbury and Thatcham is a sort of demo for all possible types of cycle lane and also all possible types of signage. There's all sorts of bizarre things. There's one where it directs you off the pavement onto the road, and then 10 yards later it directs you. The cycle lane that you were on disappears again.
It's really unclear what side of the road you should be cycling up for a start. Whether that's a cycle lane on the north side, if you're going from west to east.
Anyway, I think we might have to return to that at an appropriate time and go back and say, please sort it out.
It'd be nice to cycle along with an officer. See if they think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Need a proposal for.
I think this is to be noted because there's nothing that we can do.
Those noted.
Those in favour of noting this, thank you. And that brings us to agenda item 12. The West Berkshire District Council, it's prohibition. This is one that came to you. Would you like to introduce it?
Yes, sure. So members may recall that there was a discussion for West Berkshire Council as to whether to prohibit vehicles going up Lawrence Lane. They were going to trial prohibiting traffic for a 6-month period, and this is the experimental order that has come into effect as of the 19th of July. And then to follow on with B as well. And then I noted that following this, that there is actually a consultation on West Berkshire Council's website that residents and so forth respond to over the 6-month period, and that's the 19th of January 2023. And members may wish to consider that near the time to make a response if they get feedback.
Yeah, thank you. So just to say that there are 3 types of traffic regulation order. There are permanent ones, temporary ones, and experimental ones. And if it's experimental, then as part of that process, the council is required to consult on its effectiveness. But in any case, at this stage, as the deputy clerk said, that we probably want to wait towards the end of that period, perhaps not the very end, when we actually have more experience and people grow in the knowledge that the order's in place.
I'm bemused as you describe as an experimental order. It's already in force, presumably in passport seal dated 20th of June 2022. The Madam Clerk described it as a 6-month order. I don't see 6 months. There is inherent in it that applies for 6 months only and then expires, or am I missing something?
So you've got
the report on the 19th.
62 days left, which I think is look at the time. So yeah, so experimental order, the reason it's called experimental order, that's a legal term of the class of order, and it means that they don't have to go through the full consultation process and before they implement it, but it means that they then have to take comments while the process, the order's in place before deciding what to do at the end of that period.
Yeah.
So that's just a legal term of the class of order. So can I suggest at this time that we note it and then we come back and the deputy clerk will ensure us that we
Can I just raise a point? The order doesn't include bollards to stop the traffic, I don't think, does it? It's just a notification.
Pass.
The reason why I'm asking the question, I mean, I was up there a few weeks ago and there weren't bollards at that time.
Yeah.
It was just a sign. And I thought, well, maybe that's the experiment just to see how many vehicle movements there are. But the council have been in touch with the residents group around that area. And I'll just read what they've said. It said that one of the officers have spoken and said, it's our intention to place lockable bollards across the width of the carriageway and to physically stop those without access. And that's because they've observed that traffic are already ignoring the order. So this will happen in the next couple of weeks to be aware of, which might certainly will change the usage of the road because vehicles won't be able to use it unless they're just accessing the farm.
Just a trial period for 6 months to see what the response is to closing off the plans and showing the centre section.
If your supermarket delivery is late, it might be because the van is stranded at the bottom of Lawrence Lane. Ignore the sign. Yes. Okay, thank you. So can I suggest that we note that for this
Noted.
and with the comment that we will come back to that at the end of the year. Thank you very much. That's agenda item 12. Thatcham, agenda item 13, the Thatcham Station Improvement Plan. The proposal, given that we don't have an input for this meeting, is that we defer this again. It's not urgent. Hopefully I'll have less items to write for the next meeting. Can do that. So can I propose? Thank you. Second. Thank you. Those in favour, thank you. We will defer that one. So, moving on to the item you've all been waiting for, planning applications. I repeat my comment that I've made at previous meetings that if Velux hadn't been invented, our meetings would be half the duration.
Okay, so the first one we have this evening is 2 Bluebell Way. It is a proposal for the removal of an existing dilapidated fence and shrubbery, and they propose to install a new fence, providing better security of the site. Now,
Sorry to interrupt, man, but why does this need planning permission? Removing hard to maintain shrubs.
No, it's the adding of the fence, and so
Right to the boundary.
the law is that it's the maximum height is 2 metres, except if it's adjacent to a road in which case it's 1 metre.
Sorry to interrupt.
so the property is on the corner of the Bluebell Way with the roundabout here. The proposal is to remove the existing edging here and replace along this section with a new fence along here. So this is the existing with the shrubs and existing lower fence, and their proposal is to add a so 1,500 high fence here, and then an 1,800 high here, and a pedestrian entrance gate, and then a wider gate, and then continuing with the 1,800 high here. Going to be motorised gates. If we look at property, it is this one on the corner here. The proposal is to put in fence along here. Normally, for a fence on a front garden, it's normally around about 1 metre high.
Yeah, so it's 1 metre, except for planning commission.
Except for, if you try for planning permission.
Sorry, could I just, what's the height?
1.8 metres.
1.8 to 2 metres.
I was just going to ask for clarification because I couldn't hear very well.
So
What was the height of the existing fence? What's the height of the new fence?
This existing is a hedge. Oh, shrubbery.
Right. Okay, and the new,
1.8 metres. It varies 1.5 adjacent to the house. Most of it is 1.8, and then there's a gate which is
thank you.
marginally lower.
And 1.8 is 6 feet.
Yes. So I can't catch this.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with this, it's end of my road. And there is actually a fence within the hedge, which is at the same height as that wooden fence that you can just see there, but you can't really see the fence. And this property, it's been recently change of ownership. They've already cut down and tried to tidy up the hedge. Now, in my view, actually, the hedge is quite a nice visual opening to the road. It's something that you see as you go around the roundabout, as you go down whatever the Foxhold Way, Way. And I think it would change the character of the street quite significantly to have us 1.8 fence there. Most fences, if there are fences, are the height of that existing one, which is the same height of the road sign. So whilst I'm okay with a fence being there, I don't think it should be of that type of imposing height. I think it should remain in character. Personally, I prefer the hedge being there, but I can see that they want to tidy up that space, which is understandable.
Councillor Crumley.
There should be concerned about the height of the fence and also the fact that it should not be permitted to come up to the pavement's edge. There's a particularly bad example along Keighley Lane, heading towards Cold Ash, where that's been permitted, and it looks so it's a pleasant life each time I go past it. So there should be that space first of all, and I agree with the previous speaker. There's not on the other side of the road. I mean, this hedge is described as hard to maintain. I've never seen that in a planning application. Very hard. Can we go back to the streets and just on the other side of the road? I mean, there's a hedge, a trim and cut to shape, and there's a minor fence underneath it. That looks absolutely fine. How would it look if there was a present fence like this on the other side of the road?
What would it look like? I'm thinking, what would it look like if all the other properties along that road took that as a precedent? It would look like a sort of
Regarded as state in South Africa.
yes,
Yeah. So I don't see the justification for either.
Are we aware of any other properties having a fence as proposed?
not on that estate, I don't think, because the roads are quite narrow anyway.
I think that one's.
Was that a fence, a blue fence we just saw? In the previous. You can't go any closer, can we?
Just keep on going around, Trudy. That way, yeah, and then go down slowly, go down there slowly. So and stop there and rotate to the left. Yeah. So there's those type of fences which are between sort of walls and yeah,
Brick walls.
there's quite a few odd things in the stage, but it's because it's on a slant the stage. But so that's a bit of an odd one, and there's a sort of, I think that's an original fence though. But if you keep on going down the hill to go around to the right, you can see there's another sort of red fence, and there's a fence. But they're not typical boundary fences. They're kind of past the perimeter.
Yeah, they're to the rear of the properties, whereas when it's the front of the property, that's where the planning permission is required to go over.
I think it's needed, particularly on a corner, but I think it's anything that's adjacent to the road. But this, of course, that would have been built as part of the plan for the estate, so it would have been received planning permission as part of the estate. Okay, so would someone like to make a proposal?
Object on firstly the ground that the fence appears to be abutting the pavement, and there should be a gap of at least a metre. It seems out of sympathy with other properties on the estate, and 1.8 I thought was too unnecessarily tall compared with other fences. Altogether not fitting in.
And also, I think to follow on from what Councillor Lister said, it's quite prominent because of its location on the roundabout. You actually see it head on rather than just driving past it as well.
Unduly prominent.
Yeah. Do we have a seconder for that proposal? Amended by myself. And those in favour of that, so that was unanimous that we object on those grounds. So we can't object to the removal of shrubbery, but we can object to the construction of a tall fence. Number 2. 8 Charlock Close.
So 8 Charlock Close, they're looking for a loft conversion with 3 rear dormers and Velux roof lights to the front. Now, this was previously considered by the committee in April this year, where they originally had a full dormer across the back here, which I can actually show you. That was what it was previously in the previous application. And committee objected on the grounds of overdevelopment and overlooking dormer window and not in keeping with the rest of the development. They've come back with this new proposal with 3 separate dormers. And I think there was an issue with regards to parking, but they've resolved that as well. I think with the number of bedrooms, they would have had to increase it, and they haven't displayed that on the plan, but they have now. So So just to remind you, of the property itself, it's this one here. We'll have a look at the find if it can. That one, isn't it? So yeah, now they're looking to have the little dormers to the rear. And if you see over the existing garage, they've got some over the road, they've got the smaller dormers there, so there's a slight precedent already on the street scene with that, rather than the large dormer that was previously applied for.
But that is a floor lower.
It is. I've not found anything else.
The dormers are over a garage.
That's unusual.
Yeah, that's in another property. This is the property where.
This one is actually in the property.
In the rear stand.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You just cover Madam Clark and parking issues, have they increased the number or?
I think on the previous application they had, oh sorry, just here, I'll expand it. I don't think you can count garage as parking spaces now, so I think Highways went back to them and they've come back and resolved it with a new suggestion here. With 3 spaces there, which is sufficient for the number of bedrooms.
So how many car parking spaces are there now? 4?
3. At least 2.5, but we prefer 3.
Okay, so we previously objected to that one with the single large dormer. The question, I guess, is whether this changes whether this addresses that concern, or the principle still remains that a precedent of putting dormers into the roof space of the houses on that estate, because it looks like a large proportion of the houses have that quite steep pitch of roof, which would mean that this could become very widely.
Well, like I said, the front on the left, that's the front of the house, I hope, and the first bit of straight for developments there now, isn't it, as you see, certainly all around where I live, and the dormers are at the rear of the property, which step in the right direction as far as additional car parking spaces. I think they've done enough to satisfy me.
So you're proposing no objection then?
No objections.
There's someone seconding no objection. Thank you, Councillor Lillicrop, I think, raised his hand. Those in favour of no objection? So we make no objection. Number 3.
So this is 3 Keighley Close. They're proposing a single-storey rear extension to enlarge the kitchen, dining room, and an extension over the existing garage to create an additional bedroom and ensuite. So this is the current elevations, and can you see that? It's quite small. And they're proposing to go over the garage and extend out to the rear, single story, and over the garage with a bedroom and ensuite. The property is, I can't see it.
Was that-
Oh, there we go, came close, sorry. So it's this middle one here. This one. So we're looking to go over here and to the rear of the property.
I can see the sort of plan of the proposed properties in the front. So that's the amateur of the room.
No objections?
I'm happy to go next, sorry.
Let's ask them, any
No representation.
representations rather, okay. So your councillor Crumley, you're proposing no objection.
No
Those in favour of no objections, that's unanimous again. And another objection.
So this is Fylingdales. They're looking to a first floor side extension to extend over a previous single story extension, which was initially done to create a living room. And they're looking to form a fourth bedroom and ensuite over the side extension. So we're in the corner here. This is the existing front elevation, and we're proposing to go over here. And this is the proposed extension to the side. Bearings just off the walls. It's this property here.
Can cover parking?
I have not been able to find parking. This appears to be attached. This appears. Yeah, this appears to be relating to this spot here. So parking, that one's there, so I'm assuming it's on the road.
Okay.
But
It's possible that two garages are split between the two properties.
it is possible.
Is it not clear from the footprint of the plan, the red line plan of the company?
Yeah. Yeah, so if you go back to that, yeah, you'll.
There we go.
One garage.
There we go.
Yeah. But it's still unclear about how many parking spaces there are.
There's a proposal about moving the fence, they start the hedge to create parking, it's quite a large plot.
Okay, so you've got that extra black people are standing there. Yeah. Can I suggest that we make no objection on condition that the provision of parking spaces is adequate?
Yeah.
Is it unclear? I think councillor Crumley beat the others, so those in favour of that, and I think thank you, that one's unanimous. Right, what a deja vu feel about it.
Right, so many of
So this was previously considered by committee on the 28th of June, where committee raised no objections, but the original application was refused, and you'll actually see it on the decision notices that we'll be looking at later on.
Right.
Just see if I can. Actually, the decision. So this was the original reason for refusal. Basically, due to the form and scale, bulk and siting would appear an overly dominant and disproportionate. If you remember, it had dormers down both sides of the
But it's adjacent to houses which are two 1 story high, so I said it's out of scale because it's smaller than the neighbouring houses.
so I've said that it was an overly dominant and disproportionate addition to the roof, which failed to respect and harmonise the appearance of the existing property or appear subservient to it. And it was also went on about proposed dormer windows which introduce first floor windows to the east and west elevations of the property, which afford views of the front and rear gardens of the neighbouring properties. And therefore they didn't approve that. So it has subsequently come back. One moment, please. So previous proposal had these two dormers to the side, which is the one they've refused. And now this application comes in with Velux to the side. So now their plan, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and an ensuite, slightly reduced headroom now. Side.
You said we made no objection previously. So can I propose that as this is less obtrusive than the one we made no objection to, that we make no objection to this either?
I'm sorry, didn't you object?
Yeah.
Do we reject the No, I think because it's, if you remember, it's actually the neighbouring houses are much more substantial. So in fact,
Was it a case where I objected?
okay, because it's this one.
Can you see that?
It's there.
Half there and the others are large.
Yeah.
It sounded fantastic. It's still, incredible growth on bungalow.
Yeah, but
Facade.
but it actually makes it still smaller than the neighbouring, than the general nature of the
I remember now. Yeah. No, we all agreed with this one, Richard.
Sorry?
We all agreed to this one. I do remember this discussion.
Anyway,
It does look odd now looking back, doesn't it?
yeah. Can I suggest that as we didn't object to the previous one, that we don't object to this one?
Yeah, I don't think we.
Propose raise an objection.
Okay, those in favour of no objection, I see, you're against subject. You're against no objection. So anyway, we have a majority for no objection, so we will make no objection. So
Includes the planning application.
So moving on to agenda item 15, other planning matters, appeals. I think I recognise this address as well.
Yes, so this is an appeal on the planning act. Proposed demolition of existing buildings with 2 detached dwellings. Been obviously refused previously, and an appeal has been made to the Secretary of State.
So can I just say that in the turnover, we find that we made no objection to the application.
So that that no objection will already be recorded in the documentation going to the inspector. I think it's very unlikely that we have anything to add. There are no objection. So can I propose that we note that that appeal?
Looking to
Those in favour of noting the appeal, thank you. That's unanimous. Moving on. Planning enforcement notice. This is a bit of a novelty in West Berkshire.
So we've been advised of a enforcement notice on property at Alexander Road. You may recall from the planning and highways in July, in the previous minutes, that the enforcement notice was appealed against. And the West Berkshire, enforcement notice was quashed at the time due to, I think, document irregularities or inconsistencies. Subsequently, West Berkshire Council have now submitted another enforcement notice going forward, and they advised us that this is the case, and see what is the breach of the planning, alleged planning control.
So for the moment, I think this is something to note, unless there's an appeal, because of course we won't, because this is an appeal against unapproved development. We might take a view, if there were an appeal, to make representations.
I'm sorry, this isn't, have I missed something? This is an enforcement. Where's the?
It says that it says at the final, the paragraph below the bottom of B, that time for compliance 9 months from the date of notice takes effect unless an appeal is made against it beforehand. So if the
I apologise, so an appeal has not yet
not been made, so the point is, I think for this meeting we note it, but we just noting in passing that were there to be an appeal, we would probably need to consider our position and potentially make representations, because because this is unapproved development, we haven't considered it previously. So for the moment, for this meeting, we'll note it, but with the possibility that we'll come back to it if an appeal is made. Those in favour of noting, thank you. So, well, let's move on to C, 15C. Has anything?
No, nothing further.
Thank you. So, item 16A. So, first one is the my personal response to the consultation on the bus survey, and the reason it's personal is that I found this information after we considered the meeting. In fact, it was a result of a conversation with Graham Panting, and I looked at the timetable and discovered this interesting fact that the evening services to Burfield and Mortimer are far better than the late services to Thatcham. So I made that, basically drew attention to that anomaly in this response. And as I say, it's been submitted, it's a personal response, but it's for your information.
noted.
Thank you.
Sorry, so it's a personal.
It was submitted by me as a councillor, so I'm telling you that I made the response, but the consultation is now closed. I realised I found this information out when it's too late for us to make it as a council.
Well,
So I put it in personally.
Fair. Can I just say thank you for doing that, because that's something which I certainly would support. It's hugely frustrating when you can't use the bus service.
Yeah, but I think
That's good. So people in the evening.
I think more importantly is that that if we can't, why can Burfield and Mortimer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems to be a discrepancy there.
How has that decision ever been
I
made?
suspect that it may be because the services from Burfield and Mortimer originate at Reading, therefore some of the funding comes from Reading rather than from West Berkshire.
Right, so it's not a case of a bus from Newbury to Burfield or Mortimer saying.
No, but I'm not.
Good stop.
It's basically the last bus from where you might go for an evening out back to your home, obviously. And in fact, if you did want to go to an evening out in Berkshire, Mortimer, there's also a late bus to get you back to Reading. Anyway, that's to note, interesting piece of information that I discovered by chance. So 16B, I will have, which is the accident in Thatcham Broadway. Yeah, and I will turn to Councillor Crumley.
Thank you, Chairman. This is my starring role for tonight. You have as an exhibit 16B, the document headed accident falling Thatcham High Street. That's not prepared by me, but that's by the lady in question who had the accident. She and her husband rang me and my wife Ellen said she'd had this fall and could we meet her on site and see what could be done about it. We met her on site and took some photos. As she described in her her version of the accident, she tripped and fell on the pavement outside the estate agents just north of the convenience store. Poor lady fell flat on her face and the photograph showed really awful. Unfortunately, although they're on my computer, I can't print them off and bring them to you. Otherwise, I would. I'm sorry about that. We met her on site, and this is really her note of me, but I made note of it so well. I suggested we both made a complaint to the West Berks Council. I said, well, I would bring it before this committee. Let me say there's a point. She says I met district councillors, Mr. and Mrs. Crumley. Well, at no time did we hold ourselves out as district councillors, town councillors. Well, she described the accident very well, so I can't really add anything to it. I thought she was there, and I was not.
Would you mind going down a little bit? Much will just something.
Serious injuries. So, well, I mean, she's described it. If you're in a legal convenience store, turning right, there's the alleyway at the side that serves Waitrose. On the north side, there's a curb that sort of chamfers in from the road and gradually disappears into the footway. There's a slight ridge at one time. She seems to have tripped over that and fallen flat on her face. This was just south of the bus shelter, and she described how people came to her. She then had the incident the next day when somebody in Waitrose described how he had fallen at the same spot. Hence her reasoning, I think, take it further. So she and I've reported it. She has reported it to the to West Berks as well. I've had a reply, which I hope has been added to your papers. I think that in, I think Mel said that it would be added to the papers, the one that begins from West Berks. Thank you for your inquiry. The site has been inspected. You all have that, but it's up there. It's up there. What they're saying is they have visited, they have inspected current drop curb facilities of an adequate shape and formation that does not meet our investigatory level. We confirmed there are no current programs to carry out improvements to the drop curb facility. I go on to say there's a broken paving slab outside the estate agents, and that's nothing to do with the fall. That is not when she tripped. So they're saying it's not a matter that's sufficient for them to take further. When we met on site, February or February, on a no basis, and when I report to her again after this meeting, that's what I will say to her in order to take the matter forward. Reasoning in bringing it here was that if we were sympathetic to her plight, we could make a letter of complaint to West Berks saying there's a problem that they should fix it. I didn't know, of course, that they were going to be on the job so quickly and come to the conclusion that they have so swiftly. So that's where we are at present. I will report to as I have described.
Okay, I think is there much we can do about this? I think they've already been reported, they've already given a response. Sort of keep it in our cumulative log of problems.
Was there a picture which was associated? with that?
No, there wasn't, I don't think. No.
Chairman, it does concern me this. I remember, I think some while back, member of staff, not directly related to Thatcham Town Council, but worked here. And she tripped over and broke her arm, and the response was fairly unhelpful on that occasion. If we've got areas of paving just outside the highway boundary, I just wondered, are the shop owners aware perhaps that they really need to inspect paving slabs? I mean, they may not know what is inside and outside.
It will be the landowner of the shop, which is probably not the person running the shop. That area would probably be still be the Kingston Centre, I would have thought. The same. I don't know if they extend as far as Morrison's, but anyway, it's.
Well, we do have a large number of elderly people living at Marthinstone. And, I really hope this is not going to be a regular occurrence. And perhaps, as indicated in the letter, it's outside the highway boundary, that perhaps other shop owners need to really take the opportunity of inspecting paving slabs which are within their boundary.
So they've asked for it to be repaired, so we can keep an eye on it and see what happens.
Can I just ask through to Richard? So you spoke to this lady and she pointed you to the curb where that's happened. What was your view of the curb? Does it look outstandingly out of place compared to the?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it was just the north side of the entranceway leading to the alleyway at the side of Morrison's, I think it is now, on the north side, close to the estate agents. What's a full curve on the edge of the Broadway. When the curve comes round the corner, it gradually chamfers off, so that people walking north past the convenience store to the alleyway and then past the estate agents will be able to do so without there being a vastly raised visible pavement. But
For wheelchair use.
you can catch somebody out.
For wheelchair use.
Well, yes, and for pedestrians as well. So
Can I ask for you then, did you observe that the paving slab was rocking or loose?
no, I didn't note. The paving slab in question was not where she fell. She never suggested where she fell. So it was not something I addressed. Let me say it's novel to me that the paving slabs there outside estate agents, indeed any shop, that only part of them are the responsibility of the council.
Sure.
I would have assumed that they all were part of the pavement and therefore duty of the council to repair and maintain. Perhaps there's a red line somewhere.
I didn't notice when I was there, I didn't notice a change in the style of paving slab across there. So I suspect that at some point somebody did actually think that the whole of the width was in one ownership. Anyway,
We would normally assume that.
Okay, I think there's not much more we can do at this point. Okay. Add it to our list of things that we need to keep an eye on. So can I suggest that we note this for the presence for this meeting? Those in favour of noting, thank you. Oh, we then have 16C to inform us of the Brimpton Bridleway 1 closure. So I'm guessing that this is in fact adjacent parish because it's a Brimpton Bridleway, not a Thatcham Bridleway. I was somewhat surprised that if they're going to excavate, I think they're actually putting an underground cable here. And if they're going to excavate it, that they will be able to leave the site in a safe condition for horse riders to ride along it between 6 PM and 7 AM every day. because they're only asking for the closure during the daytime. But be that as it may, can I suggest that we note as it's outside our parish, we note it. I'll actually, I know the local rep for the British Horse Society, so I'll pass that on to them, and they may have an interest in finding out how that can be achieved. Thank you. So we note that one. Thank you. That brings us to agenda item 16. Traffic management, highways and road safety issues in addition to the Broadway.
No, nothing further from me.
Further. Just to mention there that we received a notification of a closure of Hackney Lane for a day. The amount of work that was actually carried out would probably have taken an hour, if that. And just patching a couple of potholes. Anyway, so we will note, well, no, there isn't anything to note there. So we'll move on to agenda item 17, decision notices. The ones that we hadn't already seen.
So, already looked at this one. Going down. This was a certificate of lawfulness that we would not have considered at the time, but it was refused. On the basis of the information submitted, it's concluded proposed use of Hawthorne Close Thatcham as a residential children's care home for 2 children and carers and shifts constitute a change of use, and that would be materially different from the existing use of the dwelling. The proposed therefore falls within the definition of development and set out.
So that's only saying that they applied for the council to say that there was no change of use, therefore no planning application was required. The council has said that a planning application is required, and therefore we will presumably see the said planning application in the future. But we don't comment on those because they're actually requesting an interpretation of law, not a permission.
Have raised the issue of street record. Sounds like we're caught on the record come with Brownsfield Road. That's
okay. So this is BT informs West Berkshire Council that it is going to do some work. This is running overhead cables for superfast broadband, fibre broadband. And they only have to, unless there is a good reason, certain legal reasons why the council can object. For example, if it's on a listed building or development area, then there's no grounds for objection. This one, as far as I could see, is intended to provide broadband to Walnut Close, which is a rather pointless activity. But we might, I guess, we could inform them that there's unlikely to be any customers. But
this overhead or
it's overhead, yes. So the point is that this has come up. Well, it's come up in a number of locations. Councillor Lidcrop will be familiar with one. There's one in Bailey Avenue. So basically, in order to meet BT's targets for deployment, they are choosing the easy option, which is to replace underground ducts with overhead cables, particularly if the ducts are blocked. So, and because they have this, what's called they have code powers, means that they have a right to do so unless there are certain legal grounds, as I say, like it being a listed building.
sorry, is this new poles? And
Yeah, these are new poles, yeah, effectively, yes, and in some places cabinets. Same thing applies to masts for mobile up to 18 metres now, but they only need to inform the council and wait for them to challenge it on those limited grounds.
Do we know who does actually supervise this activity?
In what sense?
Well, in the sense that you know, or the way that the work is carried out, which there was some concern about in our particular road, and if West Berks has no supervisory power to ensure that the work's being completed in the way that it should, I just wonder, you know, there is an opportunity to there's a window of opportunity of 4 weeks, I think, to email an email address that you'll find pinned to a lamppost somewhere near where the work is being done, which is all the notification anybody gets. it just feels that there should be a much clearer process of local residents being informed by letter. So that those who don't routinely go around staring at lampposts actually know that the work is taking place. But nobody seems to be supervising them other than Openreach itself.
I think that's the problem, is that because it's what's called co-power, that effectively they have the right to do it, and I'm not sure what obligation they have to notify at all, but it's very limited.
Chairman, I'll be keeping my eye open to see what the comments are coming back from West Berkshire Council in respect of the retrospective planning application in Pound Lane. I don't know, I hope I haven't missed it. I don't think I missed it. Pound Lane, perhaps. It was on just a recent application that came here, and it was refused, I believe. It was for brick wall. It was retrospective, so it was for brick wall pillars.
Oh, that was I think that was the fancy fence.
Yeah, brick pillars and infill with.
All that, and I think
We did object to
we
that.
did object to that, but
I just wondered if there was any feedback whether it got approved by West Berkshire Council.
if it hadn't appeared there, then it won't have been.
It hasn't come back yet.
Guess not.
No,
Not seen it, but
Yeah.
I'll keep an eye out.
I'll look out for that one with interest. Thank you.
Okay, so that's decision notices, reports from town council appointees to outside bodies. And looks like it's down to you, councillor Lillycroft.
Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, in fact, SWMP and the Flood Forum are meeting next week. I do have a few notes ahead of that meeting. The last three parts of the SWMP, of course, are the Thatcham North and East work, which have gone through the planning stage and are now waiting for a main contractor to be appointed for construction to start. That leaves the memorial fields, which is likely to be a little bit more complicated. There have been some delays in this, I think partly because Stuart Clark has not been well. But we're at the pre-planning stage. I believe there will be plenty of public consultation ahead of the planning application. Some details of the plan have been circulating publicly recently, and a few details, of course, concern, for example, the proposed closure of the enclosed dog play area. But I suppose the important thing at this point is to say nothing has definitely been decided. The planning application, as it stands, hasn't yet been submitted. I believe Councillor Cole is with the Memorial Hall Foundation this evening and is trying to clarify some of those details with them. If members of the public express concern about the loss of facilities like the dog play area, I think we should make it clear, well, partly that it's not our direct responsibility because, you know, it's not our field, but whereas, you know, we very much want to retain facilities like that, which are very important to the town. Nothing has yet been finally decided because that hasn't yet been through the planning phase yet, but I'm sure we'll have more information shortly.
Yeah, and you said that so the plans are circulating, and one of them got circulated to me. It does appear that the proposal extends into the cricket pitch, which is of course owned by the council.
Yeah.
So we will have comments on that, and I would certainly I've already had comments to make about it, but we'll deal with that when we.
I do believe the cricket club is in discussions with the Memorial Hall about what the whole area.
But the land is owned by Thatcham Town Council, so we need to be engaged as well, I believe.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you for that, and that brings us to the end of our meeting. So I will therefore call the meeting closed. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next meeting is